समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
The name of Giani Zail Singh will always ring a bell. He was President of the Republic, not one of those inconsequential presidents. He was appointed in that job by Mrs. Gandhi because she wanted a supplicant. However, he turned out to be very troublesome for her son, Rajiv Gandhi. That's the story we were all on to. The reason we are talking about him today is that it is his birth anniversary. He would have been 109 today. This, I thought, was a good day to slip in an episode of First Person Second Draft because I had also had the opportunity to interact with him several times. Now, first, to give you the basic facts. The basic facts, he was a freedom fighter for Praja Mandal, which was under the larger Congress umbrella in Faridkot state of Punjab. He was born in Sandwan village in Faridkot, and there he fought against the British. He, in fact, at one point even said he was declaring an independent state there when Nehru and others reasoned with him, brought him formally in the Congress fold. 1938, he went to jail. 1943, he came out. He was in solitary confinement. There is a story. In fact, if you Google him, you will have a story saying that he was born Jarnail Singh but changed his name to Zail Singh after coming out of jail. I see no confirmation of that. Even in his autobiography, that fact is not clearly mentioned, so we should know that. However, the important thing is not what his name was. In spite of the coincidences with another name that came up later, I don't know if it's true, in which case it would be an irony, but I can't confirm it. The important thing is how his career grew in politics, because he did not have that much formal education. He did go to a school. So people who say he didn't go to a school at all are not right. He did go to a school for some time. However, his attention shifted to reading the Sikh scriptures, and there he became a scholar and a very, very Giani person, and that's the reason he got the title Giani. That stuck with him all his life. 1972 to 77, he was the Chief Minister of Punjab for Congress Party, obviously. And 1977, when Congress Party got wiped out in large parts of the country, it lost power in Punjab also, the Akalis came to power. That's when I first met him. I first met him not as in one-on-one. I wasn't even a political correspondent then. I was just a crime reporter with the Indian Express in Chandigarh. And what is the auqat, or what is the stature of a crime reporter with the Indian Express in Chandigarh of 1977, where no more than 4 to 5 murders would take place in a year. Maybe in some year, it would go up to 6. So there wasn't that much to do for a crime reporter. One evening, I hung along with our political veterans who were going to just go and chat with some Congress leaders. Congress leaders led by Giani Zail Singh were sitting on a dharna in Sector 22. It couldn't have been the summer, must have been good weather because it was outdoors. They were sitting by the roadside with a little tent, etc., against the Akali Janata Party government. And that's where an expansive conversation took place, where Giani ji was holding a political class, a class in political science as specific to Punjab's politics. And he said that, look, I am the former Chief Minister of Punjab, Bhutpurv Mukhyamantri. You are meeting not just a Bhutpurv Mukhyamantri, but you are meeting the only non-Jat Sikh Mukhyamantri of Punjab, the only non-Jat Sikh Chief Minister. After me, there will not be another non-Jat Sikh Chief Minister of Punjab. Giani Zail Singh himself was a Ramgarhia from the carpenter caste, which is an other backward caste now. And the fact is that since then, it's been 48 years, Punjab has not had a non-Jat Sikh Chief Minister. So he was right in that prophecy. Now, the reason he said, first of all, he said there was the caste domination. The second thing he said was, it will be very difficult going ahead to defeat the Akalis in Punjab. That was his view. Because he said the Akalis use religion, the Sikh religion, how is the Congress ever going to defeat them? And that is what that belief ultimately turned out to be wrong, because Congress has beaten the Akali Dal multiple times in Punjab, even when the Akali Dal and the BJP or Jansangh were together. Not just that, even the Aam Aadmi Party has been able to defeat them. So he wasn't right with that, but probably it was that belief which led him into the biggest blunder of his life, which was flirting with Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. Because SGPC elections were going to take place, Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, that's where only devout Sikhs who follow the principles of Sikhism, only they can contest and Sikhs can vote. Congress party would not have been able to make any impact there. And he thought if he could create, and this was done in concert with Sanjay Gandhi, if he could create another conservative Sikh religious force, which could make the same demands, which could raise the same demands that the Akalis always do when they are out of power. What was he referring to? He was referring to the Akali Dal's Anandpur Sahib resolution that wanted vast autonomies for states, way ahead of what Article 370 might have given Jammu and Kashmir at that point. No secession, no separatism, mind you, but vast autonomy for the states. So he thought he will now give fuel to another force, and he talent hunted Bhindranwale. To that extent, he, Sanjay Gandhi and the Congress were responsible for finding Bhindranwale and giving him initial support. Then he went out of their control to say that they continued to build him up until he became this radical preacher and radical leader and went into the Golden Temple. All that's incorrect. But yes, he is the one with Sanjay Gandhi who found Bhindranwale, and they thought they will use Bhindranwale to embarrass the Akali Dal. Bhindranwale's group did not do very well in the SGPC elections, but in the course of time, the way he rose in Sikh politics, he made it irrelevant who was in charge of the SGPC, because he went and sat in the Golden Temple and personified the power of the entire Sikh clergy. That was a mistake that Giani Zail Singh made. Didn't stop Mrs. Gandhi from making him the Home Minister. When she came to power in 1980, she returned to power. She made Giani Zail Singh her first Home Minister. For 2 years, he served in that position. And then, 82, when the presidency fell vacant, she chose him as her presidential candidate. Why him? By this time, I was on that story in multiple ways, because when he came to Assam for negotiations with Assam students, Assam agitators, I happened to meet him for a little while. He had sent for me. He seemed to be astounded that these Assam leaders were incorruptible. He said that they are fearless and they are also incorruptible. How does one deal with them? That story, we know how it turned out in the course of time. However, in 1982, Mrs. Gandhi needed a president. She needed a supplicant. Also by this time, because trouble had started in Punjab, she thought to have a Sikh, and that too a devout Sikh, who could reel off the scriptures at any point of time, even in his sleep. That was a good idea. That's how he became the president. And then he gave that interview to India Today magazine, where I worked, not to me. I didn't do that interview. In that interview, he was asked if he was a sycophant or if he was something who will just take orders, follow the orders from Mrs. Gandhi. And he said, immortal line, even if Mrs. Gandhi tells me to sweep the floor, I will sweep the floor. अगर वो मुझे कहेंगे मैं झाड़ू दे दूं जमीन पे, तो मैं झाड़ू भी दे दूंगा जमीन पे. Mrs. Gandhi was gone in 1984. Giani Zail Singh himself was very distraught with Operation Bluestar. He was very distraught. He was in Amritsar just the day after Operation Bluestar. He was very upset. We all know it. But he kept his calm, because he did not let his feeling of hurt, deep feeling of hurt as a devout Sikh, overpower his responsibilities as the President of the Republic. Now, while he was a devout Sikh, he was also a consummate politician. How consummate was he? I will tell you. First of all, when he was Home Minister, he never stopped dabbling in Punjab politics. So the first massacre of Hindus in Punjab, 6 Hindus were pulled out of a bus in a place called Dhilma Khurd and killed. He prevailed He prevailed upon Mrs. Gandhi to fire her own Chief Minister Darbara Singh and put the state under President's rule. He's also somebody who wasn't beyond playing religious politics. For example, when he was Chief Minister, he thought, how do I counter the Akalis and their sway with the Sikhs? So he thought, let me do something that brings back the nostalgia of Sikh history in a way that the Akalis cannot do it. One of the things he tried to do as Chief Minister was to out-Akali the Akalis, in the sense that if Akalis draw their power from Sikhism, I can also bring you aspects of Sikhism that Akalis will find difficult to compete with. Although in private conversations, he would always say to us, Akali aklo khali. Akalis whose heads are empty. Akali aklo khali. Akal se khali. What did he do as Chief Minister? He built a whole new highway, retracing a path taken by the 10th Sikh Guru Gobind Singh, and brought back his and Maharaja Ranjit Singh's weapons from Britain. And that became a big thing in Punjab. Now, this was one thing. Weapons was one thing. What made that exercise even more remarkable, that exercise of outdoing Akalis with religion was not confined to bringing the weapons of Guru Gobind Singh and Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He also, in an exercise which might be considered laughable today, a state-funded exercise, he brought back to Punjab from Britain the descendants, quote unquote, the descendants of the 10th Guru's horses. How he proved that? Because there was no genome testing also those days, we don't know, but he brought those horses. Now, you could fault his methods, his motives, but the fact is there was no questioning his political horse sense. For days, as he paraded the horses, devotees packed the streets, old women even stooping to pick up the end products of the horses' digestive systems. I'm trying to say it as euphemistically as possible. Later, lounging on the Rashtrapati Bhavan lawns, Zail Singh would laugh about the whole thing, and he would tell us, "Lohe se loha kate, zahar se zahar." So, if I had to fight a party that uses religiosity in politics, I had to do something striking to counter them. So, lohe se loha kate, zahar se zahar. It takes steel to cut steel, and poison kills poison. The same self-serving cynicism we told you earlier made him play along with Sanjay Gandhi to create Bhindrabale and his creed once the Akalis returned to power in 1977. That story I told you. In trying to cut poison with poison, he also poured some of it into the roots of the Republic. He was to head with panache a few years later. Now, what happened to him when he became president? Initially, he wasn't such a news-making president. He did make his displeasure at the Golden Temple be known. The fact that he was not taken into confidence, the fact that he believed this could have been handled better. In fact, when he went to Amritsar the next day, the day after Operation Bluestar, he howled for several hours. He cried and howled for several hours. After Operation Bluestar, when the Sikh units in the army mutinied, Giani Zail Singh stayed put, risking excommunication and also a lot of abuse. He admitted to friends later that his loyalty to the Constitution and the Congress Party was tested even more severely just 5 months later, 5 months after Operation Bluestar, when Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated and thousands of his fellow Sikhs were being massacred within the 10-kilometer radius of Rashtrapati Bhavan where he sat. With Mrs. Gandhi, however, he was still able to keep his calm and never interfered with her functioning. Once Rajiv came in, the equation changed. Now, Giani Zail Singh's rustic behavior, his lack of English did make him a butt of jokes, but not only did he have the humility to put up with it, he also came up with his own earthy comeback, some of which remain immortal. For example, 1987, during the exercise Brass Tacks near war situation, when Zia-ul Haq came to India to see the cricket test match in Jaipur, he made a stop in Delhi and called on Giani Zail Singh. And during that conversation, Zia said to him that, Giani ji, अब तो मैं भी आपके तरह president हूँ, which means I am also a titular president like you, because I also have an elected prime minister. By that time, Zia had held a party-less election and got Muhammad Khan Junejo elected and appointed as his prime minister. Now, Giani Zail Singh, see how sharp he was. Giani Zail Singh put his arm around Zia and said, Zia साहब, लेकिन उसमें एक फर्क है. फर्क ये है कि मेरी नौकरी तो सिर्फ 5 साल के लिए है, आप क्या भरोसा है, जब तक चाहो तब तक रह सकते हो. एंड यू नो हाउ दैट टर्न्ड आउट. दैट्स अ गुड एग्जांपल ऑफ ए नेटिव इंडियन पॉलिटिशियन विद earthy smarts. However, it didn't always work out that brilliantly. About a decade earlier at Punjab University, when I was a student there, he stunned the elite scientific gathering where I was working as a student volunteer. He stunned the elite scientific gathering by questioning Darwin. This was a conference. This was a global conference on anthropology. And he stunned the audience by asking, and I quote from him, "If you believe Darwin's claim that man evolved from monkey, where did the parrot come from?" अगर आप सोचते हैं कि इंसान बंदर से आया तो तोता किधर से आया? See, after this was the emergency. Even the Times of India wrote one of its funny editorial saying Giani Zail Singh is an eminent man, but he should not use his eminence, he should not misuse his eminence to talk about science in such a manner. But that was Giani Zail Singh. My own interactions with him, I will tell you 2 stories. One is when Arun Shourie was getting really upset with the situation in Punjab, and he wrote a series of articles in Illustrated Weekly of India. That is when in some conversation, I said to him, "This is more complex in Punjab. Why don't you come and speak with Giani Zail Singh? Maybe he can give us a better idea of how things were." So I sought time with Giani Zail Singh, and we were given time. It was the winter of 1983, or maybe it was January 84. Around that time, it was the winter. I remember it was the winter because we were sat in his garden. We were sat for tea in his garden, and there he gave me and Arun Shourie a long lecture. One of the lines that stands out from that lecture is, "हो की रहा है पंजाब दे अंदर, मुंडे ने ते गुंडे ने." So munda is boys, gundas are bad guys, goons, the thugs. So both Arun and I thought that gundas, of course, we knew who he was referring to, but Munda was his way of referring to Rajiv Gandhi and his young people and his young advisors. Because even post Bluestar, he had held the belief that it was Rajiv Gandhi and the young upstarts working with him who had persuaded Mrs. Gandhi into launching Operation Bluestar, or she would not have done it. So we asked him to elaborate what is Mundene the Gundene. So he said, "Look, this is happening in Punjab. This is complex, but it's not so complex if you have intelligence." ये intelligence का मामला है. So Arun Shourie asked him, "What do you mean by intelligence?" So he said, "You have to get real intelligence, good intelligence." So I think I said, "But doesn't the government have good intelligence agencies? Why aren't they getting good intelligence?" So Giani Zail Singh said, "मैं आपको एक कहानी सुनाता हूँ." And then he took us back to his years as chief minister. So he said, as chief minister, while I had a DIG intelligence, DIG special branch, who kept an eye on everything, I maintained my own secret sources in the Akali Dal. So anytime the Akali Dal had its working committee meeting or any other important meeting, my DIG would come to me with the story, but I would have the story before the DIG. So he was always hassled. He was always irritated that I was getting intelligence from the Akali Dal even before he could bring it to me. So he said one day there was an Akali Dal working committee meeting, I think in Patiala. He opened the doors of my office and stormed in. And he said, "Giani ji, मुझे आपका सोर्स पता लग गया." तो मैंने कहा, "बताइए कौन मेरा सोर्स है?" So he said, "ये तो वो लेडी है." तो मैंने कहा, "हाँ ठीक है, तो फिर?" So then he said, "लेकिन वो तो अच्छे कैरेक्टर की लेडी नहीं है." तो मैंने कहा, "DIG साहब बैठ जाओ, इंटेलिजेंस का काम, जासूसी का काम कोई अच्छे कैरेक्टर की लेडी करेगी। जब तक आपको ये सच्चाई समझ नहीं आएगी तब तक आप इंटेलिजेंस का काम ठीक से नहीं कर पाओगे, मैं आपसे बेहतर कर लूंगा." This conversation has also been recorded by Arun Shourie in his Commissioner of Lost Causes, in his memoir. The other one is a personal story. In 1985, I was the recipient of the first INLAC's Young Journalist of the Year award. Award doesn't exist anymore. 1985 was the year. And they persuaded Giani Zail Singh to come and present it. So he gave a speech. By this time, some of his tensions with Rajiv Gandhi had risen. So he looked at me. My father was also in the audience. And he said, कि देखिए, अगर इस लड़के ने इतना अच्छा किया है तो माँ बाप ने भी अच्छा किया होगा, तो आपको बड़ा फख्र होना चाहिए. यू शुड बी वेरी प्राउड दैट योर चाइल्ड हैज टर्न्ड आउट टू बी सो गुड. That is what the parents wait for. And parents will be so disappointed if the child doesn't come up to their expectations. Everybody thought that was a hint to Rajiv Gandhi, because by that time, his relationship with Rajiv Gandhi had begun to sour. And how rapidly that relationship went downhill after that. Bofors scandal took place. He kept on asking Rajiv Gandhi for paperwork on that, on files. Rajiv refused to give him that. Rajiv made a statement in parliament that he had given the president everything that was needed, but he didn't do that. He stopped calling on the president and seeking his advice, usually, routinely, as prime ministers do, just by way of respect. Also, at least for 2 years, he didn't do it. Only when he came under pressure from Giani Zail Singh, because Giani Zail Singh was now playing politics. He was dealing with Rajiv Gandhi's rivals, and by 1987, it looked like he might be ready to dismiss Rajiv Gandhi's government with such a large majority and install somebody else from within his own party as prime minister. It had come to that. He also wrote a letter that apparently was drafted by other people. That letter leaked, and that led to a lot of trouble. In the middle, substantively, he stopped a law that Rajiv Gandhi had passed. Both houses of parliament, where Rajiv Gandhi had phenomenal majority, had passed that law. That was the Indian Post Office Amendment Act of 1956. In fact, I should say Indian Post Office Amendment Bill of 1986 doesn't become an act until the president signs it. Now, this had given the government the power to open anybody's mail, parcels, anything, to check what's in there on grounds of national security. What it meant was that indirectly, by this amendment in the Postal Act, Rajiv Gandhi's government was giving itself the power to spy on the citizens' communication. If that law had passed, it would have seamlessly gone into our phone conversations, email conversations, etc., etc. Giani Zail Singh did not send it back, because he knew that if he sends it back, Parliament will again pass it and send it back to him. He just sat on it. So he made history by exercising what is called as pocket veto. A pocket veto is when a president or a constitutional authority does not ratify a bill, does not even send it back, but keeps it in his pocket and lets it be there, because there is no constitutional bar on how long a president can sit on a bill. So he saved us from that draconian law by exercising a pocket veto for the first and the only time in our history. Remember, I told you that Giani Zail Singh was by no means an inconsequential president, and that's the reason I thought this episode of First Person Second Draft was in order.